أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين نصلي عليه في الأولين وفي الآخرين وفي الملأ الأعلى يا رب العالمين أوصيكم ونفسي بتقوى الله عز وجل كما جاء في محكم التنزيل يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. We begin seeking protection with Allah, seeking refuge in the only refuge, the protector of the believers and all who seek His help. We begin in His name in remembrance and honor of all of those beautiful descriptions He has described Himself with that should enrich our lives and put us in focus in our guidance. We praise Him, an abundant praise, that if we continue to praise Him every day, hundreds of times, we know we will come up short, so we're seeking His contentment. As people who are flawed and have many shortcomings, we seek to follow that perfect example of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and to be among those who are forgiven on the Day of Judgment, walking with Him into eternal bliss, after we drink from His hands in the fountain of Kawthar. I bear witness that there is no deity and nothing worthy of worship except for Allah alone, and I bear witness that Muhammad, the son of Abdullah, was His final messenger and servant He sent to mankind 14 centuries ago in the heart of Arabia. When we look at the world today, and we look at the power mechanisms and the forces of influence and those that control societies across the world, we see a lot of systemic corruption and injustice. It's here in America, it's in the Muslim world, it's in China, it's in everywhere. And so, as believers, we have to gain perspective from one specific place, and that is the Holy Quran. We have all been told as Muslims, those of us that were born as Muslims since we were little small children, those of us that embraced Islam since we first embraced Islam through reading the Quran and knowing about the Prophet ﷺ, that you should read the Quran. But I'm here to challenge us all to take a very deeper emphasis of reading the Quran, to take a holistic approach. When we deeply engage in a study of the Quran for the purpose of reconciling truth of purpose and who I am and what I'm doing and what will be of my eternal soul, then your faith will only rise. This is what I found. Surah Al-Fatiha is the beginning of the Quran. It's about establishing a relationship with God. It's about knowing who He is in relation to us and recognizing our great need of Him. We derived everything from Him. He has blessed us with everything, and He can and will bless us with whatever we need and what is important for us. And out of all the things He could bless us with is His guidance. We require guidance. So Surah Al-Fatiha tells you what I started talking about. Do not assume your own mind or people to be a source of guidance. You need to go to the one who created everything, who has control and knowledge of everything. And when you go to Him, He will answer you. Surah Al-Baqarah is a huge anthology, a comprehensive presentation of guidance, and it does that shadowing the pitfalls of the most blessed community and nation in the history of mankind who received guidance more than anyone else. And it gives you lessons from actual people's experiences, how they responded to prophethood. So then Al Imran, it establishes a strong relationship with the prophethood, learning the lessons from Al-Baqarah. And it gives you the fortification of patience and fortitude in dealing with the hardships of life through the connection to prophethood. And Surah Al-Imran, it started off the whole theme of how to do this, telling us the story, as we talked about a couple weeks ago, of Mary and her mother, two women. So this concept of being attached to the prophethood and the guidance that it does, that we're in the cradle of its guidance, is being explained to us, reminding us of the value of women. Then Surah Nisaa comes establishing a structure for a stable family and a healthy society, a social construct by which justice, human rights, protecting the weak are emphasized throughout the whole surah, beginning, middle, and end. It is the surah of justice. If you look at the word adl and the word dhulm, oppression and justice, they come up in Surah An-Nisa because its whole mihwar, its whole discussion is about solving these problems with the prophetic legacy of guidance. Because it also keeps talking and reminding you to go back to prophethood and to be obedient to the messengers, because otherwise you will fall victim to the desires and corruptions of society. So this chapter has in the heart of it, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَظْلِمُ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ. Indeed, Allah does not oppress one atom. So you, the servant of God, are you sure that you are not oppressing anyone? Be careful, because that's how the surah emphasizes this point of taking care of the weak and not becoming an oppressor. So it's referred to as Surah An-Nisa. Why? Because historically, the largest group of people as a collective, as a category of people that have been oppressed are women. If you look at all of this, you will see divine perfection and expression of points of guidance to fix the world. It is the women of society that historically has been by system, systemically oppressed people. And they are half of society. The basis for a family and the original place by which we derive the divine mercy and compassion is in our mothers, in her womb. And then we are brought into this world, and then in her arms, drinking from her breast. We are the weak, the first reality of every one of us as weaklings who can't do anything for ourselves. It is in the mothers, the women, by which we are protected. Surah An-Nisa gives so many rights to women that Arabia saw as drastic, and the rest of the world, Christian, Jew, whoever, were looking at these things as strange ideas. Women owning property, inheriting by themselves, having fair rights in terms of divorce and marriage and all of that. Women were oppressed by system in the whole world, not just Arabia. So at the very beginning, God sets the stage in the first verse by commanding us twice to be mindful of Him as a human family, to see that we are all part of a human family. Ya ayyuhan nas, O mankind, He starts. اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء. Be mindful of your Lord who created you all from one person. You are all related. واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام. And be mindful of Allah, that you are asking your rights through Him, and be mindful of how you treat your family members from the wombs that bore you. So then He immediately, after talking about protecting the family and those that are related, He goes right into protecting the orphans. The people have no one to care for them. This is the reality of the Quran. It makes perfect tasalsul. The chain of discussion makes perfect sense for those that would look into it. So he talks about compassion and mercy and caring for the rights of the orphans. وَآتُوا الْيَتَامَى أَمْوَالَهُمْ. Make sure you give the rights to the orphans. Give them their wealth. وَلَا تَتَبَدَّلُوا الْخَبِيثَ بِالطَّيِّبِ. And do not mix up the goodness of the wealth that you have earned rightfully with this terrible, filthy thing of taking advantage of the wealth of the orphans. Then he talks about it would be good for you. He's suggesting us to marry an orphan girl. He said, but if you know, and you know yourself and your family knows you, that you might not be just because you may have something shaitan in your head, some attitude of arrogance, that you don't think you will take care of this orphan wife, then you should marry another. And then it regulated the concept of marriage. You could marry up to 4 with a limit therein. Now, in our context in America, that sounds like some controversial, strange thing. Let's just sum up this point really quick so we don't get sidetracked, in that in the Bible, prophets were marrying before the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, as written in today's Bible. They're all carrying, and on Sunday they'll read from it, where men were marrying more than one woman. That was normal. In Arabia, there was no limit. So guess what happened? The surah's whole point, oppression. Some men married 7, 8, 10, 12 women in different villages, and he's not taking care of them. But by the law of their cultural understanding, he's like, you're my wife, so you have to live in this oppressed situation, and I can only come see you maybe once every month or 2. This is oppression. So then he said, وَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ أَلَّا تَعْدِلُوا فَوَاحِدًا. If you think that you will not be just and fair between your wives, 2, 3, or 4, then just stick with one. It's emphasizing that that is the original natural reality, and culturally, if it was reasonable or legal, then you could marry 2, 3, or 4. But the law in this ayah is you would have to be just. Meaning what? You have to provide them with the same living needs. This one has a house, the next one has a house just like that one. Monday you're with this one, Tuesday you're with that one, Wednesday, Thursday, and that's how it has to be. This one has these clothing, that one has to have the same clothing. This is what the ayah is saying. If you cannot do that, which in our context I'm pretty sure it's impossible, okay, then stick with one. So it's back to justice. So then he goes into this long, subhanahu wa ta'ala, anthology of just inheritance. Do you know in America, the one thing that anybody who becomes attorney would wish never to have to deal with? It's inheritance. Do you know why? Because families fight to the bone over inheritances. Till today, in the modern, well-thought-out, established Western world, there are big fights and major battles, actual literally physical battles and murders and legal wars that go on and on and on because of inheritance. When I was in Egypt, I had a landlord named George Henry. He told me that he knows of some Christians there that ask if they can use the Islamic system so as to keep the peace in their family, because there is an actual, detailed, meticulous system that when you look into it, it gives just rights to everyone, according to their circumstances. So they say, well, I heard that a woman is inheriting half of a man. You did not study inheritance. That is not a standard. That is one ayah, not understanding as it relates to 15, 20 other ayahs. It's a very sophisticated system. We could go off on a tangent here too, but we want to respect everybody's time. If you study inheritance, by the way, Dr. Salah Sultan, one of my original teachers, the life of Asra, may God bless him, he wrote a whole entire book on inheritance, and he pointed out on dozens of occasions where you put in the category and women will be inheriting more than men, according to their reality where they come. The point is, if you have the same category, and there's a man and a woman, Islam knows that the men were burdened with responsibility. In the Bible and in the Quran, okay, same exact teaching, we were burdened with the responsibility of leading and providing for our families. A woman is never responsible for a penny in her life. She's never having to work. So if this is the same category, this guy needs a bump up because she's set anyways, but she still has a right to take it, whereas before the ayah, she didn't have a right at all to take it. So this is the pure justice of the Holy Quran. And then it says why? It explains, after it goes through all these, وَلْيَخْشَى الَّذِينَ لَوْ تَرَكُوا مِنْ خَلْفِهِمْ ذُرِّيَّةً ضِعَافًا خَافُوا عَلَيْهِمْ. And be fearful, anyone who is executing the will, that there are people left behind in a will that are weak in that family. And you should be وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهِ, and be conscious of Allah and taking care of them and issuing them their rights according to this system that Allah is revealing. So then he emphasizes family and the cohesion of the family and protecting of the family. And then he goes into the very famous ayah of Ihsan, in which he talks about the human family. There's an emphasis on keeping the family ties, but guess what? It's not about us and them. Tribalism was removed by the Holy Quran. This concept is seen as a filthy, nasty, unacceptable mentality. Our tribe, my family and their family, ours, my group, my tribe, my ethnicity versus theirs. No place in Islam for that. So then he says, وَاعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَلَا تُشْرِكُهُ بِي شَيْئًا وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. So, be devoted, worship God alone. Do not associate others with Him. And give your parents the utmost excellence in your character. And after your parents, your close family members, brothers, sisters, children. Then, those poor and orphans, you should see them like your family. You should not allow for poor people and orphans to exist in your proximity without doing something regularly. Daily is the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ to fix them. Now let's see where we're at with Surah Nisaa. I have a lot of work to do. Will you join me? These are core values on the system website of MCC that we have. What we're talking about here. These are core values. A lot of other mosques, the goal is let's just go pray, get hasanat, and go home. That is not what the Prophet ﷺ was teaching. That's half of it. Go to the mosque, connect with Allah and the Jama'ah. Now what are y'all going to do to fix the world? What are you going to do to help the poor and the weak and the oppressed and bring justice and truth to the world? It's not about just reclusive seclusion with me and my tribe and my religious group and those kuffar. We're worried about them, but maybe they'll affect us. How about you affect them and make their lives a better life? If you do have the truth and you're certain of that. So this is the challenge we find in Surah An-Nisa time and time again. And that's why it says, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَأْمُرُكُمْ أَن تُؤَدُّوا الْأَمَانَاتِ إِلَىٰ أَهْلِهَا وَإِذَا حَكَمْتُمْ بَيْنَ النَّاسِ أَن تَحْكُمُوا بِالْعَدْلِ. So after telling us we need to establish relationship with our neighbors' neighbors, our colleagues, with excellence, ihsan to all of them, he says now, in your interaction with people, ad-din mu'amala, in your interaction with people, fulfill all your trusts and responsibilities to the best of your ability. And if you're going to make a judge between people, you make sure that you judge with justice. Inna Allah kana sami'an basira. He has always been hearing and seeing everything that you do. So then in the same surah, one time I'll never forget, it was in this research for this khutbah that actually it came to me. Because Surah At-Tawbah generally deals with the concept of war. So I'm thinking, right in the middle of Surah An-Nisa, is there some ayat about qital? Because there is, a whole couple pages. Out of 20. No, where's this? It explains. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, very clearly, وَمَا لَكُمْ لَا تُقَاتِلُونَ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ للمستضعفين من الرجال والنساء والولدان الذين يقولون ربنا أخرجنا من هذه القرية ظالم أهلها واجعل لنا من لدنك وليا واجعل من لدنك نصيرا. So the ayah says, and you should realize the purpose of the need to fight a war, because there are weak people from men and women and children who are being oppressed, and they're calling out to God, God help us. The people over here are oppressing us. Remove us from this situation. So of course you would not be like staying in your city where we're just, turn the other cheek and all that. You will go to the borders to protect the safety of the women and children in the cities so that those dangerous groups around or that those groups within can be eradicated without harming the weak. So this whole point is there because it's about protecting the weak from the powerful, oppressive folk. This is what this surah is about. We ask Allah to guide us, protect us, and give us fortitude and stability in our faith as we connect to the message of the Quran. Bismillah walhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Our dear beloved brother Stefan Clark, rahmatullah alayhi, may Allah have mercy on his soul, is one of many. Our brother Stefan Clark was in Sacramento, California a couple weeks ago, and the police come to him. He's holding a phone. They're like, what are you doing? He holds his phone, and they shoot him 20 times. And there was never found any gun anywhere near him or in his possession or registered to his name. When our beloved Imams and Mashayikh, Zayd Shakir and Umar Sulaiman, went to go do the ritual wash of his body, they said he was so ripped up and massacred with 20 bullets that we could not do it properly, so we had to do tayammum for him. They killed him because he's a black man that they have decided in the police system are dangerous people by the color of their skin. In Surah Nisaa, لا يحب الله ولا يحب الله الجهر بالسوء إلا من القول إلا من ظلم. Allah does not like that you will talk about bad things that happen or express bad realities unless you are someone who's being oppressed or unless you're standing up for the oppressed. So, a lot of Muslims, when they hear things like this, say he was not Muslim, they'll be like, he's not Muslim. Well, we need to read the Quran thoroughly. The beginning of Surah Nisaa said we're a human family, and the whole of Surah Nisaa, it talked in the generality of humanity and our connection thereto, and the need for Muslims to be at the top of the list of those who are relieving the injustices waged against the weak and the less fortunate. And there are many, many, many people before Stefan Clark who have been murdered because the police have a racist tendency and a trigger-happy tendency. And we should not stand for this. Because it's the same reason, right now with the vilification and the way they talk about these men. If you'll notice, when the white terrorist goes and shoots up a school, they say, he was a troubled young man. They humanize him. Oh, there was something wrong with him. Shoots up a bunch of kids in the school and murders them all. Las Vegas guy shoots up 50, 60 people. Well, let's not talk about changing the laws to try to prevent this because, he's just we can't stop troubled people. The black person is saying, oh, well, his relationships and where he lived and who he knew. It's the same reason why. It's the same reason. It's all connected. If you don't fight for one, then you're not fighting for the truth. We have to fight for all. The Russian ex-spy, one white guy, is poisoned in England. 20 plus countries have disbanded the Russian diplomats because they poisoned and killed one white spy, Western guy. But the Russians support the absolute destruction and genocide of the Syrian nation, and nobody disbands one diplomat. You ask yourselves why that is. It's all connected. It's the same way. This white supremacy, this one life means more than others. لا تقتلوا النفس التي حرم الله إلا بالحق. بدون تمييز على الإطلاق النفس بشكل عام. You should never allow for the murder of one person, no matter who they are. Unjustly. If they're atheists, if they're gay, if they're this, if they're that, no matter who they are, injustice and murder is completely unacceptable. So we need to be organized. We need to have a voice. We need to voice for everyone who's being oppressed, and we need to be standing up for justice for everyone if we're going to properly practice Surah Nisaa. Ya Allah, we ask you to make us those who hear a good word from your revelation and respond to it with a desire to follow. Ya Allah, make us those who are obedient and truly devoted to you in our lives. Ya Allah, connect us to the Holy Quran, connect us to each other as people of faith, connect us to the rest of our family and the human reality, and help us be among those who eradicate oppression and tyranny and injustice. Ya Allah, help us to be those whose voice and words and actions are strong to establish truth and justice in the world, to eradicate and to remove and alleviate all of the pains and injustices that the power do in their control over the weak. Ya Allah, help us to be among those who are in your contentment as we follow the example of your Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, bringing people out of the darknesses and into the light by virtue of your guidance in the Holy Quran and the beloved example of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ya Allah, have mercy and accept the martyrdom of our brother Stefan Clark and all of those people all over the world who have passed away in injustice from the Muslim community in Syria and Myanmar and Africa and elsewhere. Ya Allah, be with us, be on our side. Do not allow our laziness and sins that you have left us in our wake, in our own shortcomings. Ya Allah, we beseech you for your help and your support, because you are the best of those who can support, the best guardian of those who seek it. We seek your help, we seek your justice, we seek your support. Ya Allah, send your peace and blessings and mercy upon your final messenger Muhammad wa alayhi wa sallam.